In this video, I'm going to take you on a tour of some of the plants I've gotten for free and where I got them from. As the name of this channel does suggest, I do love a good free plant, whether that is from tiny propagations that I've found or been given, or plants that I have rescued. So I'm gonna give you a tour of some of my favorite plants that I have found for free, and hopefully I'll have footage of what they look like when I first found them and what they look like now. And we'll start with this string of bananas. This little succulent, which is a type of senecio, I found as a tiny strand of string of bananas from a hardware store, but it was found broken on the ground. Took it home, potted it up, and I actually do have a few videos of how I took it from one small strand and made it into this full plant, but that was one that was found as a tiny strand from a hardware store. Another plant that I found as one or two single strands from an Ace hardware store is this peperomia string of turtles. I actually have another video about propagating this one and the care, as well as treating this plant for mealybugs. This is one that has really turned out phenomenally from a little tiny strand that was picked up off the ground. One plant that I kind of forget was a free plant. This is a Monstera deliciosa. This was actually a little chunky cutting that I dug out of my garden when we first moved here. In this corner that is currently occupied by a trampoline that my kids don't seem to use anymore, there was a lot of bamboo that was kind of cut back and just mown over. When we bought the house, I think there was giant bamboo here, and it was a huge effort digging it all out. And in the digging of that out, I found a big chunky node of a Monstera deliciosa. So I think previous owners had a big Monstera growing in that corner, and it was cut back and forgotten about. I mean, I don't know if that counts as a free plant because it came with the house, but I luckily recognized that it was a Monstera. I originally propagated it in water and then planted it in this pot, and it is so happy now. You can always tell a happy Monstera when it's got the fenestrations. So it is finally growing into itself, and it really loves it on my patio here. And yeah, so that definitely counts as a free plant, right? Another group of plants that I am so lucky to have gotten for free was a bunch of Cymbidium orchids that were given to me by a neighbor. This just goes to show how the gardening community is really helpful to one another. My neighbor just happens to be a collector of these orchids, and she actually gave me a bunch of free plants. She gave me, I'm just even looking in my front yard here, there's like two there, there's one here. Like, look at these ones here. She just happened to see me in my front yard and said, hey, you're a fellow gardener. I have a bunch of plants, let me give them to you. And she gave me so many of these Cymbidium orchids. So that was really awesome. This is definitely up there for some of my favorite free plants that I've ever received. The same neighbor gave me this begonia, which I absolutely love. It's really architectural, it's huge, it almost looks prehistoric, and it has these really delicate, beautiful begonia blossoms. So same neighbor, same free plants. Now over here, this is my propagation station. It's a complete mess. I definitely need to go through it. But over here, there's so many of my favorite free plants that I have received. I mean, let's even start. This is a Haworthia. This actually came from my mother. She had one of these plants and it just kept growing tons of babies. So I asked her, hey, mind if I grab one of those pups? Sure enough, she gave it to me. This is a Tradescantia Nanook. This came from a broken stem that I found in the indoor plant section of Home Depot, and that has been really easy to propagate. I did a water propagation at first and then transferred it to soil. It's really quite happy out here. Part of the free plant collection. This is a, I believe it's a string of tears, but some of those do look like pearls. It could be a mix. These were some string of pearl tears, we'll call it, that were found at Home Depot, and I have just been propagating them. It started as one string that I cut into smaller pieces, and it just kept growing and growing and growing, and it's pretty happy here. I just recently transferred it to this terracotta pot, and it's doing great. Similarly, from Home Depot, This is a donkey's tail, and there's actually a few. This one long strand was from Home Depot, and it's like growing some branches. It's really happy. Some of these came from leaves. It's really quite easy to propagate these donkey's tail. It's a type of sedum from leaves. But speaking of that, these were all some of the leaves that fell down. These are all little babies donkey's tails that came from that same broken stem that I found at Home Depot. Another succulent that I found at Ace, this is a Crassula watchband. This breaks really easily, so it's very easy to find stems of this. I found this, I believe, at the same time as I found the Peperomia string of turtles. So that one is pretty happy in a little terracotta pot. There's some more nanooks. Oh, there's so many things up here that are free plants. I have a bunch of snake plant propagations. These are actually from a few different places. The first was a couple of leaves that I had found on the college campus that I work at. We had a storm, they were broken. I did a little bit of an experiment as to which is the best propagation method. And then also I found some other stuff. I believe this one, we had a neighbor that I think they had them in their garden and it got overgrown and they just threw them out, and I came home and propagated them up. This is my very messy deck that really annoys my husband, but it's got more propagations. These are some tiny little cactus. There's two different kinds. They were left out on the side of the road with a free sign from another neighbor. It had gone really overgrown, so I kind of broke them apart and put them in a few different places. And the small ones are really happy. You can actually see it's spring now, so there's a few blossoms that are about to go. These ones, some are looking better than others. They haven't all really taken to the soil, but that was another really cool free plant find. Over here, this is like another, I call it my dead garden. This is a lot of times where I just find free plants and have nowhere to put them, stick them in here. We've got some aeoniums. Some of these came originally from my mom's garden, and then I keep growing them. This was broken off on the sidewalk near my house. Same with this. This is a type of Crassula. Fred Ives, the original Fred Ives. I have so many of these. Original ones came from my mom. She just cut a few out of her yard, and they just keep propagating and propagating and propagating. I'll show you. I have another giant tub of Fred Ives and aeoniums. Here is another giant pot that is just full of these Graptivaria Fred Ives. As I mentioned, I think I got 1 or 2 stems from my mom. And I've done a lot of leaf propagations with these. And then if you can kind of see way inside here underneath, the cool thing about these plants is if you cut the stem, here's a good example. If you cut the stem, lots of little babies will start to grow out of it. So these Fred Ives are just so super prolific. This one looks really bad. This got some powdery mildew, so it's in recovery mode. But you can take the leaves like this and they will start to grow new babies just like this. They are so easy to propagate. Back to this tub, these aeoniums, again, you can see how big these started as little small clippings and they just get so giant, which is also why so many people in the town that I live cut them back and leave them out for other neighbors. So some of these came from my mother's garden. I got some from a neighbor. And now I think it's probably time for me to clip them and leave them out for my neighbors to get some free plants. And then speaking of neighbors and free plants, all of this sedum here was left out. It was a bunch of really straggly stems that were left out by a neighbor. I have some planted in my front yard. I have some just sitting in a planter box. They're kind of all over my yard, but I have so many of these sedums from one neighbor that had left out a few straggly stems. The same neighbor left out, oh, they leave out so many things. So they left out these kind of ghosties. This is like a really cool stem that they had left out. It's looking a little bit worse for wear. I need to tidy this up, but I kind of just love the weird look of this one. The same neighbor also left out this epiphyllum cactus. It's not looking great right now. It just got a little bit sun damaged. I have another epiphyllum cactus featured in a video, but they left out all of these and those succulents. So that's a house that I often drive by very slowly when I am looking for free plants. And then this giant organ pipe cactus, I did another video about that. Same neighbor, that one was also left out by them, and it is quite happy in my little front yard here. A Punchia cactus. This one's all nice and velvety. This one is a do not touch. This one doesn't have spines. A lot of these I have found broken on the side of the road or at the beach. This one I believe is a chaparral Punchia. It's a California native. There's another one there. They're so easy to propagate. They do break quite often, so they're very easy to find on the side of the road for free. I almost never buy aeoniums. The only aeoniums I've ever bought are these sunburst aeoniums. Everything else, mostly from my mom's garden. And then these Senecio blue chalk sticks, also from my mom's garden. So that's the thing. All of these succulents, when people, friends, neighbors, family, when they cut their plants around here, take advantage. That's what I've done, and that's what I've made. I've cultivated almost my entire front yard with free plants that I've gotten either from neighbors or from prop lifting or from my family. It is currently May. It's a little bit gray today. It was sunny earlier. We've got a lot of nasturtiums in the Pride of Madeira. I guess you could call those free plants. They're more like volunteers. So those just planted themselves there. I didn't get them as free plants that I planted later. But the aeoniums, the blue chalk sticks, we've got more of the Fred Ives hiding in here. This rock purslane, this was actually a plant that I had growing in another part of the yard, and it broke, and I put a couple of clippings in here and it's completely overtaken. I guess you call that a free plant. We've got a lot of aloes. This aloe I just realized has knocked over. This has fallen over. I need to fix that. More from my mother's garden. Aloe cameronii from my mom's garden. More of these awesome aloes. I mean, look at those blooms. They look so cool. Aloe cameronii. They're looking really green because we've had so much rain. I mean, I really have to hand it to my mom because so much of this front yard, including the euphorbia sticks on fire, all came from cuttings from my mom's garden, and just the colors are awesome. So thank you, Mom. Maybe I'll have to do a tour of her garden next. Up here we have a blue agave americana. That, oh my God, and so many pups. I need to get rid of them. That gigantic, I mean, this is huge. Let's see if we have my hand for reference. I don't want to touch it, but it is huge. That, along with all of these, there's a few of them. Those all came from a Facebook Marketplace ad. So I was on Facebook Marketplace and a lady was trying to extend her driveway, and she just put it out there. Anyone who wants to come and dig out these plants, they're yours. So I got a ton of those, and they have now since created a bunch of pups that I now need to take care of. But giant plant, like if you were to buy that plant, that would be in the hundreds for something that size. So that was an awesome free plant find. Facebook Marketplace, it's an awesome resource for finding free plants. And then going back to more friends and neighbors, this is a Crassulagollum. I had another neighbor friend who just cut back. She had tons of it. She was cutting it back, and I planted them in here, and they're just so happy. Usually they have like little tiny leaves. They've got these big giant leaves. They've really taken off, and they look really cool here, planted up in the garden. There's a few more aloes. There was another neighbor nearby that had a ton of cuttings put out. Here's one of the aloes from that neighbor. We'll move over. They had these other really interesting aeoniums here. These little aloes, I don't know if you can see those there. They, some kalanchoe, they just had a ton of cuttings. They really cut back their garden, and I took a lot. I left a lot, but I took a lot. So that was awesome. But yes, those all came from a neighbor who was clearing out their yard. So it always really pays to take a walk, see if your neighbors have left out some free plants. Now, hiding inside there is another aloe, a blue elf. That came from the same neighbor who gave me the Cymbidium orchids. There's another one. I broke it up into a few pieces and planted it in a few places in the yard, and that is like doing really well. It's blooming. This is another one that was broken, found in a parking lot in my city, in a city parking lot, just dumped on the side of the road. It was gonna go in the bin. Got a lot more aeoniums. Those again came from neighbors. And then one of my favorite free plants, this is an agave blue flame. It's really big. It's gotten bigger. This was found on the side of the road. There was actually a pair. There was one there, I had one there. One did not survive. A neighbor had it in their front parkway garden, and it had just gotten overgrown, so they had thrown them out. It was very challenging picking it up and putting it in my car because these, let me tell you, those can do some damage. But I managed it. I threw them in the back of my car, I cleaned them up, and I planted them. The other one suffered from some rot. I still have it. I keep trying to think that maybe it will recover. It's sitting in a pot in my propagation station. But this one is really happy. It's just a fantastic way to show off the yard. This is the yard in spring. So we have got all the colors going on. Really happy with how it's looking right now. And a few more succulents. These are Aeonium kiwis. These were from the same neighbor that left out a bunch of the aloes. They also had this little ice plant. It looks like Senecio, but it is ice plant. And then a lot of these little succulents, not all of them were necessarily free, but they've all come from propagation. So I bought some succulents, such as these sedum jelly beans, cut them, propagated them. These ghosties I got for free. These were free. So a lot of them were found for free. The Haworthia, that was another one that came from my mom. This one I found run over in a parking lot. I rescued that. So a lot of these were free or propagations from things that I had bought. This is what I'm calling my crassula corner. There's a lot of different kinds of crassula. A lot of these were just cuttings that were found on the side of the road. These break so easily. They're often in potted plants in public places. So that's where most of these have come from. I'm gonna leave it at that. That's a ton of plants to start with when talking about all the free plants I received. So maybe there'll have to be like a part 2 and a part 3 of the video, doing another tour of some of my free plants. Of course, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Leave them in the comments below. Check out my Instagram and TikTok. And of course, subscribe for more free plant tips.